Yeah, it's really interesting. I think the way I always kind of assess procurement maturity is like, is the how well is the procurement function connected to the goals of the business? What's that interface like between, or what's that? How do the drivers line up between procurement's understanding, sorry, the business goals, the values and the drivers of the business, and how the
Mhm.
procurement team are operating? Because if they're operating in a disconnected manner, they don't understand the business through maybe no fault of their
Yep.
own, and they don't have that level of integration. It's an immature process. It's an immature
Oh
function.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. If you think about, going from kind of ad hoc to order taker to contributor to trusted advisor, so the four-stage model is the one I happen to like. You can't be a trusted advisor if you not only don't, you have to have procurement functional excellence, people, process, tools, data, right? Technology. You have to have that, but you also have to have a relationship with the C-suite and an understanding of how the company makes money and the ability to, I mean, for example, when I was in aerospace and defense, I went to work in a process systems division for a while, which is the engine, strut, nacelle, APU. It's like I said, it's about a third of the cost of the airplane. Important stuff, right? And so customers, like actual airline executives, would come in and they get a tour of the factory that would show, hey, here's your engine, blah blah blah, right? That was normally done by an engineering operations person, or somebody that was sort of factory, an engineer that worked with the factory. Um, and when they couldn't find somebody, though, they got me because I happen to know every single part, where it came from, what it costs, um, you know, what it did, all this stuff. Like I wasn't an engineer, I wasn't a mechanic, but by having this procurement role, I knew all the parts and pieces and what they were and what they cost and where they came from and how they worked and all that stuff, right? And I could go in and do those factory tours with, like I did one for the head of or the he was the head, um what was his title? I can't remember the title. I think he was the chief operations or something like that for Japan Airlines. So, I gave a tour like, here's your engines and it's for this, and blah blah blah, and through the translator and everything. It was really cool. It was a neat experience. But the reason is because I actually understood the business, because I thought it was like, it's my job. If I'm going to go, do this stuff, and I happen to be in a finance role working with the purchasing people so I wasn't the guy buying it. And we didn't have strategic sourcing or procurement at that time. It was really, really long time ago. But I was part of like negotiating those engine programs or engine contracts and whatnot, right? Um, and I just felt like I have to know what all of this stuff is in order to do my job well. And because of that, one of the things I got to do is go take, customer executives through the factory and show off their stuff while it was being built. And I wasn't really thinking of it as, kind of being a trusted advisor or whatever. The term hadn't really, I hadn't heard that term at the time, but that's kind of what I was doing, right? So even though I wasn't really in charge, it was a lower level role at the time. I was able to do things that other people couldn't because I just really did my homework. Well, if you extend that when you are more in charge, that doing the homework, understanding the business model, all that, and having that same kind of relationship thing, now you can go to the business and go, hey, I've got this cool idea. And you might not be running a P&L, but you can influence a P&L, right?
Yeah, and it's also it's an interesting side of procurement that I quite often see pop up, particularly in quite sophisticated procurement organizations, which is the idea that procurement aren't that they're kind of helping the business make money as well. Whether it's getting involved in bids and looking at supply chain capabilities when they're going
Mhm.
into bids, which obviously is a hugely important thing in areas like aerospace and defense, or actually just understanding the business enough to be
Yeah,
able to, whether it's passing on insights from suppliers that you're working with or seeing what's going on elsewhere in the market or whatever, but to help the sales side of the business, which I find really fascinating.
right.
but it
Yeah,
leads
and
me on
that's
to
something that's huge because, we're experts in buying stuff. Buying and selling are not the same. But we do understand things that can help our teams that are on the sales side. And oftentimes, that connection isn't there, right? The salespeople don't really talk to procurement and vice versa. And you're absolutely right. We should, because there's a lot of synergy there. And again, it's kind of that 1 + 1 = 3 thing.